computer. All right, you know the intro. Hello, everyone. My name is Sheen Trades. For those who don't know me, I'm a co-founder of TraderLink, and today we'll be going over whatever we want, really. I know I do want to do some Vanna theoretical examples of how dealers hedge, and then I want to get into the footprint analysis from today. And then following that, I would like to do fibs and a little bit of VP, but mostly sticking to fib and using today's trade example. I think that would be very beneficial since that was a live example from the early morning stream. But to start this off, let's go over some theoreticals, right? So let's pretend that this is 48.75, right? And then we'll do this positive Vanna over spot price. And then let's say at this point we have a 0.2 delta. And then, so once again, we pull up that little sheet, right, that I always show you guys. That's the one that like I said, I don't have it memorized. I just go back and forth, make it simple. So when we have positive Vanna over spot price, what happens as IV goes up, this becomes a repellent, meaning dealers are selling or sell hedge, right? IV minus equals magnet equals buy hedge, right? So let's talk about it. Let's say we have two different things now. So we're going to take the brush tool. Where can I get the cheat sheet in Discord? I'll post it. It's pinned in the main trade chat, so you can kind of just check the pins there. So let's say this is a 0.2 delta, meaning we are not at the money, right, guys? If the delta is 0.2 at the money, there's something definitely wrong with the market, but that usually doesn't happen. So let's say we're right about here. Okay, that is a really ugly. We're going to take the path tool. So let's say we're pushing up right now, and we have that positive on it right there, right? So what happens? So let's say this is SPX spot price. Blue is going to be SPX spot price. We're going to make this a different color. We're going to make this line is going to be volatility. So if volatility goes down, right? Let's recolor this. We'll make it yellow. If volatility goes down, what happens with this spot price? If volatility is going down, or IV, vol, whatever you would like to call it, let's say since it's going down, what happens? This will magnetize and dealers will buy up, right? Dealers will buy as their hedge, and then we'll push up, right? That's the very basic, right? So this is, I need text boxes. So this is vol going down, right? And we can label this. We can use VIX, right? Going down. That's a little big, so we'll do 20, right? So let's say VIX is going down, right? Let me extend this. There we go. So let's say VIX is going down, and then this is SPX spot price. Okay. Labels, SPX spot. Right, so that's essentially what it's going to look like. So dealers are going to buy, right? With VIX going down, dealers are going to buy. Does that make sense so far? So that's essentially how you kind of, how it'll look. And keep in mind, everybody, we always talk about how market dealers are different than market institutions and market makers. Market dealers are a subcategory of that. So, it's not always going to be a very clean move up. Don't get me wrong. However, it's going to, because they could be battling out if we're pushing up towards like a really strong resistance, right? Or a resistance level. It might not push through. So, but just keep that in mind. Dealers will have to essentially buy more than the market makers, or either buy more or buy with them. So it kind of just depends on the current price action. But keep that in mind. This is how it's going to look. So VIX is going down, means vol is going down. So spot price, if we stop right here, right? We stop right here. And then we reach, this is the point in which that delta hits the 0.2. So 0.2 delta, right? So that's what it would look like. And then as soon as VIX continues to go down, this will happen. Dealers will begin to buy as their hedge, right? And that's just an example of positive Vanna over spot. So now let's go over, I wish there was an eraser tool. But I have to hit delete on these. So let's say as we push up, now VIX is actually going up, right? Now it's a vice versa situation. So VIX is going up, right? And then now we can take the same situation, but the opposite. Since VIX is going up, what happens? Dealers will have to sell as their hedge, right? So that's essentially how it's going to look like. Oh, Control Z, thank you. Completely forgot about that. Does that make sense? Like, I just want to break it down in very simple, like arrow schematics so people can kind of understand it a little bit better. And this is specifically tracking potential price action and potential VIX, right? Because we're obviously not going to know exactly how to get VIX, the direction of volatility, especially looking at VIX because it's another chart, right? Can I go over how I'm selecting strikes on Vanna chart? Yeah, I'm just picking the large exposures. Anything small, I could really give less of a shit about. So it's going to look something like this. So it's like, let's say this is Vanna, right? We have a big bar here. We have little bars, semi little bars, right? And then we have another big one here. I'm only paying attention to these strikes, right? These bigger strikes. I could care less about all of these things. Those little ones don't matter all that much to me personally, based off of how I utilize Vanna. So that's going to be what I pay attention to. So let's say this one is 47.85, 785.4, right? And this is like, I don't know, 4,900, for example. Keep in mind, these are just examples of not an actual chart. But isn't VIX and spot price pretty instantaneous as VIX moves down, spot price moves up? No. So with VIX, it's like a lot of people, and we talked about this earlier on stream. A lot of people think like VIX is inverse of SPX. That's never the case. It's not, or it's not never the case, is not what I mean to say. I mean to say that that's not always the case, right? Because you'll have situations where VIX can be choppy and SPX can be relatively directional, or you can have VIX dumping and SPX dumping along with it. And that could be, and since it's tracking volatility, it's volatility going lower. So it's not always going to be an inverse. And for those who keep thinking that it is, um, take it, I guess you can take it from me. Don't fall under that idea of like, oh, VIX is going down. That means SPX is going to push up. That's not always going to be the case. Yeah, you'll see SPX go up with VIX or SPX go down with VIX relatively often. Usually in those situations, that's when Vanna kind of helps if you can understand like, okay, what happens to SPX price as volatility goes down, right? Yeah, just find the highest one in my opinion. So like look for the highest exposure. Yeah, positive fall going down is buy. Yeah. So everything that I have written here, that's essentially what you look for when that delta hits 0.2, right? Because for those who don't know how the Vanna curve works, it looks like this, right? And these peaks at where Vanna has the most effect is when the delta is at 0.2 or negative 0.2 and then 0.2, right? So that's essentially, I personally don't pay attention. I personally do not pay attention to total Vanna plus minus. Geo does. And he can talk about that. He's actually writing out something for people to kind of understand what that is. Yeah, Vanna did flip today. I saw. Which is, Geo, that's something that Geo pays more attention to. That's not a me thing, but I pay attention to singular strikes. He's playing more on a bigger field, right? I'm here trying to understand the price action along with it. But so far, does that make sense? And this goes for all of them. Like for those who are in the Discord, I think you can just go to the pinned ones, pin chat. Yeah, pin chat, and then you can see this pinned, and then you'll see there's this one here. Someone made a colored coordinated one, which is very nice and has a little more talking about the accelerant effect. And then this is just this really dumbed down one version of it that I created on a spreadsheet. So use whichever one you think is better. But I stick to mine because I like to keep things simple, stupid. I think when you make things a little too complicated, it can cloud potential judgment. So I like to just keep things very simple. But yeah. So with that being said, let's move on. Can you go over how Vanna played a role? I'll be honest, I didn't pay attention to Vanna today. The main key thing that I was watching today, let me move this back over here, was 4800 AOI. We called that out in chat, so remove drawings, go to SPX. We called out 4800 AOI as the main wall today. Usually when AOI lines up with the positive wall, that means it's going to have a lot of action there from the dealers, meaning they're going to have to hedge a lot more since it's the AOI. So with that being said, it was a pretty hard rejection right at 4,800, right? That was the main one. And you would have caught this move down. That was the GEX analysis from today. And it was really simple, right? Like I said, positive GEX above spot price will act like resistance, especially if it's AOI. Dealers are going to have to hedge a lot more. So we called that out in the morning. Did I take the short? Missed it. Actually ended up going long, and I can go over that mistake today. Wouldn't really call it so much of a mistake. I went long on Qs. I went long here, so it was something like this. There we go. And then the moment we got that, when I saw we flushed this previous low, I was like, okay, time to get out. So I did take longs today. Got clapped on them. Don't take don't think I didn't get absolutely clapped on those. I did. But then what was the next one? I flipped back to SPY, and then let me see. How do I remove drawings? Remove drawings. There we go. Yeah, I mean, I like to go over whatever I can because that is a setup I would always be willing to take, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm not going to take that pretty much every time, right? Enter here, size in here, stop loss below this. So I take that every time. Win or lose, I'll take it because it's a decently probable setup. And the other part was it was at the high volume node as well on VP. So I figured we'd kind of chop around there before pushing back up. But the next one that I took was crap. There we go. The next one that I took was I took ES or SPY shorts. Those went and I filled out like my runners around 100%, a little bit under. But then the average exit was about 56% or 54%. So what was I watching, right? I kind of want to find it on the stream with everyone and see. It was when the clock was at 8:50. It was the 8:15 candle. So that I know. So that's 7:26. Okay. Was it right here? I think it was right here. Yeah, so what I noticed is on this push-up, I wonder if I can play the sound, but I can actually just commentate on this on the side as we watch this. So what I was watching here is on the 5-minute chart, right? On the footprint. Like I said, footprint has been the absolute thing that I have been watching since the year started. It's only been 10 days, obviously, so I'm not going to say it's like we spent a long time watching it already, but I've been using it every single damn day. And as you guys can tell, right, we're pushing up and on our footprint chart, we highlight or we populate the delta when it's a divergence, right? Because obviously when you see this, something like this, right? So we'll pause it here. Let's mark this thing up. How do I enlarge this? I hate using a Mac to enlarge things. There we go. So what am I noticing here? So when I see this specifically right here on a green candle, we populate the divergence candles, right? Is there a bid-ask footprint? Yeah, we have a bid-ask footprint as well. This is just a delta footprint, and all you have to do is click this little settings icon and flip it to bid-ask instead of delta. But continuing forward, we populate our footprint chart with the divergence delta, meaning if there is a green candle like we have here, but there were inherently more negative delta, meaning more sellers, that means sellers, there were more sellers on that candle. And obviously some people would think that this could be a potential relatively bullish candle, right? The other thing that we talked about was this line in the sand, right? That's how I have it labeled, line in sand. And what that entails or what that details is essentially the reason I put this line in sand is because that was the last positive gex. Everything below that positive gex at 4760 was all negative. So, and what do I talk about a lot of the times? Negative, or the basic saying is negative gamma exposure acts as an accelerant for fluid movement or fluid movement, right? Exactly. So now that we're below this line in the sand and we have a negative delta buildup, right? You retest is positive. So once you break below, a support in general terms, right? You break below support, what happens? You want to see a retest of said level before continuing down, right? So getting into that sort of price action understanding and on mixing it with gamma exposure, it's fantastic, right? You have your level to watch. So that was the line in the sand. So if we continue watching the stream, you'll see this delta consistently build up. Then I think we moved to the next candle. Yeah, see, it's still negative delta, negative delta. Sorry, fast forwarding to the clip. Okay. Is there a way to make this 2 times speed? Yes. So let's just watch that delta change, right? So this candle opened up, there's no negative delta, right? I think it was, oh, had to reload. Okay, so it was the 8 o'clock candle to 8:15. So it was roughly like a 7-minute clip if we're in 2 times speed. So this candle was building up positive, positive. I want to flip to that. Did I miss it completely? Okay, yeah. So it started changing to negative. So that's what I was watching. So look at the delta footprint instead of bid ask. I mean, I like watching the delta more so, just seeing where the sellers are on the price because it's easier to read. It's practically the same thing. It's just all calculated for you, similar to like similar to split and net on Gex charts. That's essentially what it talks about. So it wasn't, that's a 2-minute candle. So I believe it was after 8:15. But I want to go through and find that exact moment in which we found that crazy delta change. Okay, there it is. Okay, there it is. Boom. Right. Buyers bought back in. So let's rewatch that slowly. Um, Look at that. So buyers are buying back in. It's a red candle, but buyers are flooding it, right? Look at that. What a huge increase in buyers. But then what I talked about here was, okay, I was looking and debating on getting out. However, keep in mind, keep watching, decisions are made on the fly all the time, right? So I was watching that, but look at that delta decrease again. It went from 14,000 at a high and it basically disappears completely, right? That's when you know that, the sellers are taking control, right? So that's the coolest part about this type of thing. It's like you see the sellers taking control. You can see me just staring in this corner right here, staring at the chart. um, so we're decreasing. See, you see my mouse hover over that? We're decreasing. So just keep watching because that's the part where it's like when it flushes down to like 2,000 people, you see me start kind of go crazy. Flip to a 5-minute so we can watch it, and then flip to a 15-minute. See, now we're seeing all that positive delta. This is that 15-minute candle. So it's around 1 hour, 39 minutes and 45 seconds. I hope this is somewhat entertaining, guys, because I think going over stuff like this, like live trades, and luckily we're able to capture those. Not often are we able to capture those. So that delta is still positive. You can see all those buyers right there on the delta chart. Those are all that it's green across the board. Server error, and we're back at like, see, look at that. We're at like 18,000 now on the 15-minute chart. If I speed this up a little bit, okay. Pull it back a little bit and see what happens. So that delta is changing. See, 15,000. It was at 18,000 of a high. So it's coming back down, coming back down. So we're just watching this the entire time. It's just like watching and seeing where, like, who's in control, who really is in control. Is it buyers or sellers, right? So they're fighting it out right here. And you're just going to see that delta completely like disappear. It's such a cool thing being able to see that kind of data, in my opinion. Footprint chart is, like I said, it's fantastic. I love it. Um, Going back to that delta. See, we're at 11,000 now. Okay, it's decreasing, guys. See that? Went from 10,000, it's going to drop down to 8,000. So seeing that decrease was huge. I was like, okay, this is getting pretty crazy. This is getting that huge, like, all those buyers just got completely absorbed up by the sellers and they're slowly taking over. See that delta from 8,000 all the way to 3,000 in a quick stick, right? So it's still going. It's still going. And I was up about 25% here. But then when I saw that positive delta, I did trim out. I was in 60 contracts of SPY. I trimmed out 20 of them and left 40 on the table just in case. And then when I seen this delta decrease, I was like, shit, I should have just held more of those. Shouldn't have trimmed out, should have waited. Yeah, so seeing usually, and you'll hear me say this all the time. I'm gonna pause this. You'll hear me say all the time, like I hate buying near the low of days, but I had bought initially. Um, oh, I didn't even show where the entry was. Shit, sorry. Um, so we're at what's the time of this? 1 hour, 44 minutes and 58 seconds. So we'll remember that really quick. There we go. That was it. Right. I drew that fib out right there. We pushed up into it and I took my size in right there. Took my size in right there. But throughout all that slow bit of chop, those contracts were only up 25% when we were basically at the low day, which is really shitty. But 1 hour, 39 minutes. Shit, where were we? I think it was 1 hour, 45. Yeah, right about here. Okay, and seeing all that delta disappear. See, we're down to 2,400 now. 2,000 again. We're holding there, and look at that. It's flipping. That delta completely goes away, and it goes negative, right? Keep in mind this delta only shows all that stuff. Yeah, well, we can talk more about Vanna. We can go into that, or if that's something that everyone else prefers. I can definitely do that. I just want to show different examples of like how to utilize the dashboard. It's not just about the exposures. It's not just about the unusual options. It's not just about footprint. You can use it in all sorts of different ways and see that delta completely go negative. So yeah, I can go over more. I can go over more and see that flush, see all those dealers, and you see me getting hype on the fucking corner. Um, but yeah, so that's what we were talking about. That was like the one. There were two main things. It was the 4760 Vanna that I was talking about with Vol in the morning, and then as well as the footprint. Three things, I guess, in that 4800 wall. But yeah, seeing that delta change is like that can give you pretty strong conviction to continue holding, right? And we flushed right through, right? The sellers completely took over and whatnot. And so yeah, that's the sort of trade review for that. Let's go back to the other portion. That's the only trade review I have for that. But yeah, the Delta footprint is fantastic, right? It's a different tool, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, Vaughn exposure, gamma exposure is like the only thing that I use. I use it with fibs, I use it with volume profile, use it with footprint. I think that's the best part about the dashboard is like being able to have so many different tools all in one area, and you can basically use every single one of them. Yeah, the three lines earlier on the stream were gamma exposure levels, right? The line in the sand was the main one at 4760. Since we were below that, I was like, okay, everything else should accelerate through. And that's a perfect example too. It's like that as we talk about for those who, this is a public class. So, people who have missed the previous courses or classes that we've hosted, you can go back and see the December videos. We talk about the same things. Negative because like I said, repeat the same things over and over again, and then you learn it the way that I use it, and then you can implement it into your own strategy, right? I could care less how you use it. This is just me showing you how I use it, but continuing forward, right, that line in the sand for gamma exposure was the main one, where you basically go into seeing the basics of the first or the second class, where it's negative exposure creates accelerates. Are you using default settings? Are using default settings in Geo's volume profile. These are modified. I believe this is at 1,000 or 700. Yeah, 700. So it might just be the same default. You can move it around however you want. Do you talk about the Vanna repellent magnet? I talk about it in everything. I'm changing the structure of the classes as I'm realizing people like different things. So as a teacher myself for all these classes. I'm adapting and changing along with it. So the classes for next month are going to be just one class for gamma exposure, right? One class for Vaughn exposure, going over resistance, resistance support, accelerant effect for gamma. Vaughn is going to go over the repellent and magnet effects and the Vanna curve. And then the third class will just be essentially, footprint, VP, and fibs, and how to utilize those in conjunction with using Vanna and Gex from the first two classes. And then the last class is going to be something similar to like today, where it's going to be sort of like a case study. So we kind of changed it around because everyone who has been in these classes basically go back and forth between those all the time. So it's kind of nice to get, a different perspective on certain things. Um, I know the AI feature is too simple for you, Sheen. Can you talk about the best way to use it? I have a whole video on that. If you want to learn the AI feature, just watch the YouTube video. It's on our channel. I use it, the way I suggest people use it is essentially use it as bonus conviction. You have your own way of basically reading it, or you have your own strategy. If it lines up with the AI feature, then fantastic, right? That's my suggestion on how to use it. Can you change the footprint time frame? Is the 15? I use 5 and 15. I don't really use anything else. You can use the other ones, but I believe we have daily now. Yeah, 1 day. So we have the daily. So that's well, this is interesting to see. Negative delta on the daily for the past 2 days. But yeah, so we just added the 1 day in with our V3 update that's pushing out tonight. So it's ready for tomorrow morning. Yeah, all the ones on our YouTube are public. Check them out. May as well pull up the YouTube 1 second. Have it right here. Ready? So videos, you have all access to all of these. Apex AI module utilization. So that's one thing that I would watch if you do want to use that. How to customize the dashboard for those who really don't know and can't figure it out, you can watch that. Footprint chart intro. That's more so going over like every aspect of footprint that can be possibly used. I just use it the way I use it now because I found it to be more effective. Are you able to rewind to 5:25 a.m. and walk us through any of the charts are hinting for the PA for the first part in the morning? We don't have historical data as of right now. Uh, what would the most important thing to be in your I think you should learn gamma exposure first. Like if there's one thing to really try and nail, it's in my opinion, it's going to be gamma exposure. Watch this class right here. Actually playlist. Go into this one or this playlist. Sheen Trades December classes. That'll go over like all the important things in my opinion. That is these are the classes that you're going to want to rewatch in my humble opinion. I think those are the best versions of the classes because they're more structured. Now, as we get more and more into these, this class will be uploaded to YouTube. So don't worry. How do you skew? Like I talked about in the previous ones, I don't use skew. I don't use delta adjusted. That's a geo thing. I only teach what I use because that's what I know the absolute best, right? I don't want to teach anything. I stress that I teach what I know because I don't want to put out bad information. But yeah, so we can go over some more Fauna examples or theoretical examples, as I said, because I don't have any live examples. So let's just say Vana 4900, right? And then let's label this negative above spot. So when you have negative above IV plus, negative above IV plus, it becomes a magnet, IV minus, it becomes a repellent. Let's label these cell hedge, phi hedge, current delta 0.20. Actually, let's do 0.1215. Call it 15. So then we can talk about it a little more. I did not use Vanna today. Actually, not entirely true. I did it on the long, but it just went against me. So like the opposite of what I was expecting to happen happened. So then it went against me. It was the 4760. You can actually, for those who don't like, I don't remember exactly the situation, but you can go and find it in the live stream video from today. Um, okay, back to this, right? So let's say we're pushing up. So the delta is at 0.15. And what did we talk about? The Vanna curve, right? The delta needs to be 0.2 in order, that's the wrong tool. Delta needs to be 0.20 in order to get the most effective Vanna exposure. I'm not saying Vanna is not going to work in terms of if the delta of that contract isn't at 0.2. But to get the most effect when dealers are hedging the absolute most, the delta should be at 0.2 based upon the curve. Next one is, so let's get into it. So actually, I can just use this and draw it. So let's say SPX is pushing up, right? That means this current delta, since it's above spot price, right, is going to start increasing. So that delta, when we hit right here, 0, that's actually a little bit too big of a line. So let's say we're getting up right about here, right? We've hit that wall. And at this point, the delta is now 0.2, right? So let's talk about it. What happens? This is SPX, right? SPX. Now let's talk about VIX. What happens when it increases? What about 1.2 doesn't align with the largest bar you mentioned earlier? Same effect, just not as powerful. Not that it's the same effect. It is the same effect, not as powerful, but also keep in mind since it's not as powerful, you cannot expect the same amount of hedging or that move to happen as well, in your favor. So you kind of want to wait for those deltas to hit 0.2 and then make a decision upon that to go look at the volatility or look at VIX. But continuing with this, so let's say VIX is pushing up, right? So VIX is pushing up. What happens when volatility increases? Dealers will buy as their hedge with negative bond exposure above spot. So guess what happens? Dealers buy, right? Dealers buy, right? They buy it up, right? So the next one, so take a look at this. Make sure you guys understand it when VIX is going up. So let's change it, right? Sorry, it got quiet all of a sudden because I was focusing on erasing it. No, that's tough. So once again, let's say spot price is pushing up to this level, and then now you have VIX going down. So VIX, right? And then SPX. And at this point, the delta is at 0.2 now, right? 0.20. Let's say that VIX is going down, as we said. So what are dealers going to have to do? If volatility decreases, this Vanna exposure level will repel price. And when it repels, if it's above spot price, what happens? Dealers will sell as their hedge, right? And then SPX will go down. Got it. Not necessarily find the 0.2 on the chain and use that, target large Vannas and wait. Exactly. That's my process. You can utilize the other options or large exposures, but once again, I look for the large exposures and then I wait to see what happens I wait to see how the market reacts when those deltas hit 0.2. That's the best way to say it. There we go. Most of this hedges on the ability to forecast IV changes. If you can predict that, seems like all fall. Yeah, if you can, I mean, on that stream that one day, right? We basically called the top because the deltas hit 0.2, and then we drew fibs for VIX. And if volatility was going to increase at a certain area or VIX was going to pop up, that would be the spot, right? And the long golden ratios. So then that's when we took the position. So being able to understand or pinpoint certain areas that VIX may bounce or VIX may flush is going to be essential to utilizing Vanna, in my opinion. You can utilize the options chain, don't get me wrong, but if you're trying to if you're trying to make those top ticks and read the market versus reading the options chain itself and for implied volatility, it's going to be you might struggle a little. You won't be able to find or pinpoint when it's going to go up and down. With reading VIX, you can do that. Negative above spot, are you talking about? Yeah, I'm talking about negative above spot on the Vanna chart. How do you view VIX on a separate chart or overlaid? And would you please show your your VP settings? My VP is just, it's just a standard of what Geo posted. It's the, if you look up OK guys, like this OK guys on, the chat, then in Discord, you'll find it. What's the amount you're looking for on VIX to change 0.3 to 0.5 move or larger? Oh, just my settings. I use a 700 look back. So if you go to the look back on VP, inputs, this one, VP S&D fixed range look back length. I use 700. You can even change it to 1,000 if you wanted to. I just changed HV and LVN to white. Average volume node is just white with a gradient to gray, or the opacity slider. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, if you want to overlay VIX, you can. The reason I don't like doing that is because it's harder to price or chart. So new price scale. Why is it not working? Okay. VIX. Am I trolling myself? What the hell? Okay, for whatever reason, it's not loading, but you can overlay by doing that. Add to new pane. It's just not working for me right now. I think it's just slightly glitching. Not a big deal. But yeah, that goes. I'm back for a moment. What did I miss? Oh, you just missed a fat section. You're gonna have to go back and watch it. Hate to break the bad news, but I'm not gonna re-explain all of that for one person. Unless it's just more, unless it gets more requested. When doing the Vanna cheat sheet, how much is considered Vanna increasing, decreasing, to rephrase my last question? Let me go back to your last question. Okay, 1.2. Do you mean like the number amount when you're hovering over it? Oh, honestly, once again, I'm very simple. I don't look for that because it says negative 0.12. I just basically look for the ones that look bigger visually. Watching VIX, I don't really pay attention to how big of the move VIX is going to be. I more so pay attention to how what it's doing after I call or after I depict whether or not it's going to bounce. If it continues to push up, then I can make the assumption that, you know, volatility is going to continue to increase and base it off of whatever that situation entails. Can you go over how you mark your high volume and low volume levels based on VP again? Yeah, essentially the trend of VIX. That's better. Yeah, I basically just like the color wise, is that what you're talking about? I just use white and then white with the opacity for the average volume nodes is like 20. So I don't have to select a gray. Ow. But yeah, low volume nodes are gonna look like this, high volume nodes are gonna look like this. No, yeah, I mean, if you ask away, the thing is about this is like it is confusing. I try to keep it relatively simple. That's why you ask like these types of questions of looking at it. I'm just like trying to think of what I think about at that moment because I can't tell you exactly what I'm thinking about exactly because unless we're in that moment, so it's a little bit hard to reproduce the same thoughts. So I'm sorry if I'm not explaining it well enough. That's on me. But hopefully what I'm talking about makes sense. Yeah, this recording will be posted. So for those who are wondering, it will be posted on our YouTube like the last public class. Yeah, not a problem. You're not looking for VIX to drop at that moment. You're looking for it to be in a trend in line with the move you want. Yeah, I'm looking to pinpoint whether or not VIX is going. So when that delta of Vanna on that Vanna exposure strike hits 0.2, that's when I'm looking at VIX, right? That's when go take a look at VIX and determine at that moment when the delta is at zero point 0.2, what is VIX going to do? Can I basically make the right guess or assumption of VIX, right? That's going to be like, I'm not going to tell you I know exactly what volatility is going to do, but when it hits 0.2, I go take a look at VIX and then pinpoint, okay, does VIX look like it's going to either drop or push up, right? If it's already falling, is it going to stop falling, right? Is volatility going to increase at this point? Can VIX bounce here? If VIX cannot bounce here, then I'm going to play whatever side that volatility is going. So if volatility continues to fall down, then I'm going to play that entailed side with whatever the situation is. Are using VIX? No, I use like I'm like 2 minute, 5 minute, and occasionally 15 minute. The only reason I flip to the 15 minute, if I'm being honest, is to see what that candle visually looks like on the chart instead of on our footprint. Yeah, so I can go over some of the new features on V3. So for those who are excited, glad that you are, because I'm very excited for it too. I've been using it. We have access to our version of where so we can test out the updates. But with V3, what comes along with it? Now the exposures are real time. You'll see it automatically refresh very, very quickly. It's real time instead of every 60 seconds. The next one is unusual options are getting a huge update, right? We have now, oh, it seems to be pushed out already. So unusual options are getting a really big update with the multi-leg situation. And then now you have this whole page popping up, right? What this whole page tells you is on certain days, when did these get bought? It'll tell you at the ask, at the bid, and it'll sort of line up all the strikes and the dates. Like let's say there were multiple orders that came in, it'll do that. So we now have that historical data for unusual options. And the biggest, like that's the biggest one for the unusual options. It's a huge overhaul getting the historical data up. Footprint WebSocket is going to be fixed because I know a lot on the main dashboard before we released the V3 update. There were a lot of like WebSocket errors or whatever, or like server timeout errors. And so yeah, so that's getting fixed. And then, like I said, the exposures are in real time. So it's three huge overhauled things that hopefully make a big difference in how you utilize it, as well as the daily for the footprint chart. So that's the other thing we've added. Holy, a lot of questions came in. Sorry. Okay, so is it when spot gets to 0.2 Vanna on the strikes or trailing Vanna chart? No. I'm 0.2 Vanna is not it. It's 0.2 on the delta of the strike. So you can go into your options chain and look at the delta of the. So it's okay, step by step, right? Look at Vanna, find the visually biggest ones, right? Within a relative range, right? You don't want to pick something that's like 48.50 or like even here 48.25 when spot price is sitting at, oh well, this number is actually wrong. Or we're fixing that right now. But let's use this as an example, right? If we're at 47.56, 48.25 is obviously very, very far out of the money, right? So that's not something I'm going to pay too close attention to. I want to pick the ones like this, right? 47.70, 47.90, and 4800. Then from there, you mark those on your chart along with all that extra shit that I always type in where it's like, sorry, let me squeeze this down, where it's always going to be like, okay, it is whether or not it's positive above or below. The next line is what happens when IV plus or IV increases, equal sign repellent or magnet, equal sign buy hedge, sell hedge, whatever that situation is, right? You write those two out and then you mark the current delta of that, right? Because paying attention to the current delta is going to be very, very important. Because if the delta is at 0.1, right, as we push up, that delta is going to increase, then you can kind of mark and then go and look back, right? So after you pick your exposure levels on Vanna, what is the next step? You wait until those deltas on those current Vanna strikes essentially pick up in delta to hit 0.2. When you look at your options chain and those current deltas of the Vanna exposure strikes are at 0.2, then you can make the inference and go take a look at VIX and see whether or not VIX will continue to flush or can it potentially bounce, right? Those are the steps. Peeking at other large SPY holdings as well, or don't give a fuck. I could, not entirely wrong. I do occasionally, like if I see like Nvidia or like AVGO. I mostly pay attention to like the main tech stocks like Microsoft. I really rather look at like an Amazon. So like the list is here. These are the main stocks that I usually watch. I'm actually going to take Enphase out here because it crushed me, crushed my heart. But these are the main ones that I watch. Taking out BA crushed my heart too. Taking out Master because I don't pay attention to crypto. But these are the main stocks that I'll flip through to see whether or not they're kind of pumping or dumping, right? Instead of utilizing a heat map, because those top 10 ones that move, if they have like a big percentage day, like I remember when AVGO was pushing like 1100 and having like, those 5-6% days after they got price upgraded. And that was carrying the market. So are there any VIX correlations you look at for divergences? No, not sure what that means. So I want to say no. We could get a refresh rate setting if we are the best connection. I'm not sure if you can get a refresh. I don't think we're going to implement. I think it just auto refreshes. Worst comes to worst, you just have to refresh your screen. So good. Got it. Thank you. For Vanna at point 2, are you also looking at the footprint chart? Yeah, yeah. So if I see like the Vanna at point 2, I see VIX dumping, but when it's dumping, I see positive delta being built up. That's a little strange to me. So then that's when I'm thinking like, okay, we may push back up instead of continuing to push down. Um, I usually don't like looking at like, a bunch of people always ask like, oh, can I use the pre-market data or the after hours data whenever it scans after market closes to kind of make inferences for tomorrow? Yes, of course you can. Don't get me wrong, you definitely can. But I said it in this morning stream, it's the same thing. Like I think it's everyone repositions. So I wait till it clears out, wait 10, 15, 20 minutes in the market open and then kind of look at the data more closely. That's what I do. Not something that you have to. You can look at it, but I personally think looking at all of this is just not necessary. I take the time to look away from the market, right? I think a lot of people are stuck like when they're getting into understanding the market, but if you spent enough time like me or Geo, you don't look at it like when you get that time off, like when market closes, or when I call it a day earlier, like I called it earlier at like 8:30, didn't really look back after. I really could give less of a shit what the market does after I'm done for the day. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Thank you for mentioning that. V3 is aggregated view. So like you just click this and then you can drag these dates and you see that little dashed line. So you can get aggregate view, which is gangster because now you can kind of make, bigger inferences with swings. So this shit's cool. Giga cool. You feel me? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's sort of that's the other update. I completely forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. That's huge, actually. You're a nerd. I know Mr. Wayne over there is Alejandro. The guy always tries to get me with different names. When you say watch the options chain for point 2 delta on big Vana candles slash strikes, will that be at spot price? Not sure what that means, but if the deltas are point 2, it's never going to be at the money. Just keep that in mind. If you pull up any options chain, the delta is never going to be point 0.2 for at the money strikes. I think more often than not, at the money strikes are going to be like point 0.4, point 0.5. Yeah, I mean, like I said, so I've I've put up the offer. I told Gio you can crash at my place Thursday night so I can get you in here on stream for Fridays. Um, because I listen to you guys. I'm not here just saying like, no, I don't want Gio on stream. Trust me, I've been getting him, trying to get him on stream, and that he spent the night at my house, and he ended up coming in the next day in the morning with me at like 5:45 a.m. So, like I said, I am listening to you guys. I want to get Gio in here more often to give different perspectives. So, you know, I won't do, dude. I never play WoW. I'll never play that game. That game takes up too much time. But so far, how do you guys like it? Good class. Can delta on the strikes be zero point 0.2 and minus zero point 0.2, or should we only look at no, it could be minus zero point 0.2 as well. It's like if you're looking at puts, it's going to be like if you're looking at puts, it's going to be minus zero point 0.2. Like the puts always carry negative delta unless you're selling them. But on the options chain itself, they carry negative delta. So like if you were to open up your options chain right now, I'm a little too lazy to open up my TOS. Plus, I don't think the privacy setting is on for my TOS account for now. Yeah, I think okay. So the thing is with me is like I like when I sorry, I got to stutter. But um with these classes, I'm slowly adapting and trying to make, changes. So the structure of next month's classes will be a little different. And then, so the first 2 weeks of every month, I will be doing these four classes of Gamma, Vanna, Footprint slash VP slash Fib. And then the last class of the that month will be essentially case studies as well as reviewing certain things. And I'll try to like throughout that 2 week period leading up to that last class, I will save up some of those case studies so that we can review them on that class. I think it's really cool. Um, yeah, the recaps are great, and luckily we're streaming now every day. We streamed every day, every single day since this year started. So just as a you're welcome. We streamed every damn day. We've nailed every single like on stream. We've nailed every bit of analysis. Yeah, I have nothing better to do at 5 a.m. I don't think anyone has anything better to do at 5 a.m. So yeah, I do. I try my best. Thank you for the insight in the class. Yeah, thank you guys for enjoying it. That's the biggest thing is like if no one really gave a shit about it, I really wouldn't do it. But everyone always asks for the streams, sort of the analysis. So I mean, stepping up to do it. So it's hard to get everyone else to teach because everyone now has their own, like, we've been running TraderLink since October, right? It's been like three months or so, 4 months. So everyone kind of has their defined role. So I'm sort of the guy who is able to stream, right? Able to teach the classes. Yeah, I can show how to draw fibs. It's swing high to swing low. That's the simplest explanation. If you don't know what swing high to swing low is, that's something to go look into, because that will teach you the basics of market structure. So let's say we have a stock that goes up like this and it comes back, right? Actually, we'll leave it at that. That stock goes up there and it kind of rebalances or, munches around, I guess, right here. What happens, right? Then I will take the fibs. You go from swing low to swing high to find the longs, right? Then if we get back down to here, right? We manage to get down here. Then you take your long, right? So then let's label these. So this one is going to be your 1/2 size entry or your quarter size, whatever. It's just partial size, right? This line is that. This line here is going to be your size in line. And then this one right here is going to be your stop loss. So stop loss. So a candle closed below it. But I talked about or not to yesterday's class, yes, a few days ago class. What did I say? Basically, if you get down to here, let's say, you finally managed to, it's getting down here, right? However, there is a big however in this situation. Let's draw it out. So you get a candle that, that's just a little too big. So you get a candle like this. It closes slightly below, right? And it has like a wick. Call it like this, right? It closes like that. Red candle closes like that, but it carries. This is when you can go into that footprint chart. I talked about it. Talked about this. That's when you can go into the footprint chart and be like, hey, did this red candle carry positive delta? If this candle carried positive delta, you have a reason to hold past your stop loss, right? Unless that delta flips back and goes negative, but you want to see if this candle that closed slightly below the line carries a positive delta, because I think that will be really good to take a look at, because then you can see, okay, the sellers were definitely absorbed So if it carries positive delta, this has a very good chance of still continuing to go back up, even though it closed below that. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of I talked about this on Tuesday's class, right? There's if you have reason to hold, you may as well hold it, right? You size appropriately, then you can definitely hold, right? So yeah, that's how you draw the fibs for longs. It's from swing low to swing high, and then now we can go over the shorts, right? So it would be get another path. Let's say we go down, chop around, right? Then you can do like swing high to swing low, and then you can have your stop loss stuff. Let me read that out loud. So for VEX, find the relevant AOIs, and plus or minus above or below spot, perfect. Mark them on your chart, perfect. Weight, perfect. When the option chain has a 0.2 delta on, what is it stuck? On the relevant AOIs identified in step one, then look at the VIX problem. Yes, perfect. Someone pin that. Someone copy and paste that. Everyone right now, copy and paste that onto like your notepad. That's the one. Thank you, Machi, for typing that out. That's a perfect way of looking about it. How far back do you like drawing? Like the previous day, it just depends. Like today's entry was taken like for shorts was taken right here. Right. So if we look at this, let's flip to a 2-minute chart because that's what I was watching. Right. We have identified right here a swing high, a swing low, another swing high, and a swing low, right? So how can you go about drawing it, right? So we had already gotten this move down, right? We flushed below that and I missed it. So I was like, okay, then I'm just going to have to wait until, we're just gonna have to wait until we get some sort of pullback or pull back up. So then we have our swing high and our swing low. So we drew it like that, right? So swing high, swing low here, swing high, swing low. So what did we do? We drew it from this swing high to this swing low, and then we got our long golden ratio in this little area. Yeah, not a problem. You nailed it. That's very good notes. Glad to see that, some people are trying their best to pay attention. That's perfect. But yeah, so that's how you draw fibs. Yeah, of course, not a problem. Is it going to work every time? No, because if you had, I want to make very clear that, you could have waited for this one to happen as well, right? If you go on a 15-minute chart, you're not really going to see that. See, on a 15-minute chart, you're not really going to find, well, yeah. You don't see it here. So then even when we hit up here, that was the short, right? So if you draw it from here to here, this one all the way down to right here, you got the short, right? So that was the entry for short. So you could have swung if well, at the end of the day, I'm not really going to take a position with that little time left. But you could get into swings. If you trade futures, you could have taken a short, right? 0.5, that 0.5 level is ICT considers it equilibrium or whatever. They're just using fibs. I'm just saying, for those who trade ICT, they're just using fibs on fair value gaps. uh, no shame, no hate if you use ICT and mix it in with what you do. I know a lot of people have really good success with ICT. So, well, I'm not a so like I said, I have friends who use ICT, right? And it works very, very well with them. And I'll be honest, they outtrade the shit out of me. I went long here. Those ICT, my friends who use ICT, they caught the shorts. So I got bagged. I mean, look, at the end of the day, ICT, I actually don't even know what ICT stands for. But yeah, I have friends who use ICT and they mix ICT with this data, right? So it's like I said, it's taking what you already know in your current strategy on top of and adding this into it, right? That's the whole thing. Oh, inner circle trading. Interesting. When delta is decreasing from 0.3 down towards 0.29, would that still be considered the point? No, you look for that 0.20. That would be ideal. 0.20 would be ideal. But yeah, like I said, I have friends who use ICT, so and they mix it and they do better than me. Like execution wise, trading wise, they do better than me. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you they don't. They're better traders than me, inherently. But when it comes to reading data, no one reads it like me. So I need to empty out the used Zin case. I should have kept the other one. Went to green for the, oh, here we go. What is DEX? Delta exposure? I don't use delta exposure. Personally, don't use it. I stick with gamma, Vanna, charm. Charm, if you want to ask me about charm, I'll tell you right now, if it's negative, if this total number is negative, equals bullish. If it's positive, equals bearish. That's how I use it. It's more for sentiment purposes rather than anything else. Put in a little upper decky. And then you lube it up with the liquid of the gods, some Coke Zero. Anyways, I'm gonna stop the stream here. I think we've had a good amount of information. I don't want to make it too long for when I post on YouTube. Oh, that stopped sharing my screen. Whoops. Reshare. And then we will stop the recording.